Robert Gabriel Mugabe, Zimbabwe's first post-independence president, who ruled the country for 30 years, has died at the age of 95. Mugabe had been receiving treatment for ill health after being ousted from power in a military coup in November 2017. Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa announced his passing in a tweet at around 8 a.m. this morning. He eulogized him as a founding father of an icon of liberation, a pan-Africanist who dedicated his life to the emancipation of his people. Mugabe was born on the 21st of February 1924 in what was then Rhodesia. In 1973, while staying in prison, he was chosen as president of Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe's African National Union, the party ZANU, of which he was a founding member. After independence in 1980, he became the first ruler as prime minister and then president. His rule is synonymous with the seizure of farmers owned by white Zimbabweans and the free fall of Zimbabwe's economy. In 2008, he shared power with the opposition MDC. After an election dispute, his ouster was largely pegged on his wife Grace Mugabe's political ambitions. All right, joining us all the way from Harare, Zimbabwe, is former ZANU youth leader, ZANU PF leader, Mr. Lakson Kandemiri. Mr. Lakson, it's good to hear from you this morning. Let's begin perhaps with how the mood is in Harare, in Zimbabwe largely, after this news broke out this Friday morning.
Good morning. It's good to hear from you in Kenya. It is with great sadness that we announced the passing on of our founding father, the former president of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Comrade Mugabe. You know, he's a hero, a pan-Africanist, and a champion of black empowerment. Yes. We obviously are mourning his passing. So should Africa as well. The mood in Zimbabwe is that of people who have lost their founding father, of people who have lost a way in their ideology, because he was pamphleting us in many other things. Although he was at an old age of 95, remember he was our president for 37 years. All right. Let's talk. Obviously, he influenced many people's lives, including me, including many generations as well. Positively, some negatively, but all the way we still mourn the death of our founding father. And let's talk a little bit about Mugabe's legacy. You know, he's visited Kenya a majority of times, and his last visit was back in August 2016. Back in 2001, when Kenya needed, when Zimbabwe needed consultations in terms of making sure that Kenya is supporting Zimbabwe in resolving the land dispute, he came to seek the advice of President Moi of Kenya then. Let's talk a little bit about his legacy. What do you think that most people will remember Robert Mugabe for, President Robert Mugabe for? Yes, his rule was, of course, not 100% in sync with every international world, but you realize that Mugabe, since independence, tried as much as possible to influence Africa to be pan-Africanist. Yes. He learned from Kwame Nkrumah, Leopold Sedar Senghor, and many other African leaders then. So he is remembered as being an avid pan-Africanist. He is remembered as a role model to other African leaders right now that are ruling other countries. Yes. He is also remembered as a champion of black economic empowerment. You remember Zimbabwe was the first one to have policies of indigenization, localization of resources, and so on. He was also trying to do this thing so that he empowers native Zimbabweans. Many other countries also followed suit. Namibia has the same policy now. And he also wanted to unify Africa. And through African Union, like what you said, he came to Kenya seeking advice how to best do we regroup, how best do we make Zimbabweans and other African people around the world better economically and better also to stand on as a civilized nation. Right, but nevertheless, Mr.
Lakson, as much as, yes, he will be remembered for all those things, as well as even serving 11 years in prison just to make sure Zimbabwe gains its independence, we cannot ignore the other side of things, such as his tyranny, habits of ruling in Zimbabwe for 30 years, how the economy under his watch crumbled. Zimbabwe was once the food basket for the southern part of the continent, so there's the other side of the legacy as well.
Yes, that's what I said, that his leadership was also blighted by some poor leadership. Some would say he wasn't 100% correct in all his policies and so on. Also, mostly let down by other ministers he chose to represent for him and so on. So basically what we're saying, the economy of Zimbabwe suffered through sanctions, through poor leadership, through many other aspects as well that you might want to also say it was Robert Mugabe's responsibility. We cannot run away from that. We once were food basket of Africa, but then with many other aspects we had with the problems of land reform and how it was carried out, with the problems of sanctions, how they came into affecting the whole country and many other people, just because the international world did not see what Mugabe was trying to put and portray to the Zimbabweans themselves.
Right.
So basically we suffered that under his leadership. But if you are to put on a scale and say 100%, what did Mugabe do to his country? Probably the 60% good and the 40% bad.
Right.
But right now I think it's time that we mourn a great person who tried to influence Africans to be better, to respect themselves, to not have. Yes, right now we have xenophobia South Africa. Mugabe did not like things like that.
Right.
Because we have black people beating on black people.
Yes.
And this is what Mugabe was trying to stand for. To say, no, we are all unique, we are all black people, we should respect ourselves, we should not have self-hate, we should respect all other people as well, regardless of where they come from. And we should stand on our own after independence. So that is the greatest thing we should remember Mugabe on. But when people die, mostly people start talking on how bad he was or how good he was. But right now, at this present time in Zimbabwe, we would appreciate if the world would mourn with us.
All right, Mr. Lakson.
The nation.
Okay, because of time, I have to ask this one last but very important question. Because you are the former ZANU youth leader, you got to interact with Mugabe on a more frequency than most young Zimbabweans. So my question would be, perhaps, how do you choose to remember Robert Mugabe, and how was your interaction with the former president?
No, it was very good. It was very good. We would speak. He was a happy person, although because of the big age difference with us, we feared him a bit, because obviously he was a big hero. There was a big hero standing across the table with you, discussing with you, laughing together and so on. So, of course, there was a lot of fear on how he would react to you and so on. But he was a great leader. Mostly, he would also try to advise young people to be better and to respect the law, and we enjoyed that. But obviously, as you said, I'm a former ZANU leader. People sometimes don't agree all the time, and when a four in 2014, when probably most of us would not have been with Mugabe till the end because of certain political decisions.
All right.
But all the same, we respect him for who he was